So, good morning, students. We'll start our topic number 3 of Unit 5, which is payments, changes in work, claims, and dispute resolution in a construction project. So, the first one is payments. The next important construction contract clause is payment terms. It is important to include a description of the payment process in the contract, including the timing, documents required, approval process, and the terms of final payment. This clause should contain language about how often payments are to be made on an ongoing project. Important dates such as the invoice due date and when payment is due should also be included in this clause. These dates are important for all parties to be aware of, as penalties such as interest and lien interest are dependent on them. In continuation with payment, every project will have its own documentation requirements when it comes to payments. So required documents might include cost backup, subcontractor invoices, subcontractor and supplier lien waivers, payroll expert reports, and a list of subcontractors and suppliers and how much each is owed. The process to get a payment approved should also be included in the payment terms. This section will include who reviews and approves the payment request and how long they will have to review it. This process will tie into the dates provided in the timing portion of the payment clause. The process to release the final payment on a project is often complicated and requires a lot of paperwork. So requirements from the owner, lender, insurance company, and any other parties to the agreement should be included here. So required documents generally include a final certificate of project completion, final construction lien waivers from subcontractors and suppliers, operation manuals, warranties, as-built drawings, and a list of subcontractors and suppliers with contact information. Timing is very important here, as the deadline rights expire is determined by when workers were last on the job and when the job was substantially complete, that is all work done except punch list items. Next, changes in the work. So there are changes in every construction project, whether they are expected or not. So how these changes will be handled needs to be spelled out in the contract. So terms will include details about general contractor and subcontractor markup on changes, how long the contractor has to notify the owner of any changes, how that notification is to take place, and what to do if there is a disagreement. So there are generally two types of changes that can occur on a project: change orders and change directives. A change order may be started by the architect owner, construction manager, or the contractor and can be a change to the scope of the work or a change in materials. So once pricing has been determined and an agreement is reached, the scope is added or subtracted from the project. In continuation, if an agreement cannot be reached on the change and the price, the architect or construction manager may step in and issue a change directive. This document orders the contractor to make the change in the work, with the pricing to be determined later. A change directive prevents a dispute over change order pricing from holding up completion of the work. Next, claims. So anytime there is a dispute between the owner and the construction manager or contractor that cannot be settled, it may escalate to a claim. So basically, a claim is a request for additional time or money regarding the project. The contract will detail the claim process, timeline, and notice requirements. It may also state the preferred method of claims resolution, which we'll discuss in the next section. So in most contracts, there is a time limit on when a claim can be brought forward. Usually it is so many calendar days from noticing the issue, or if it is regarding pricing extra work before the extra work is completed, except in emergency situations. It is important to know what this timeline is, because claims submitted after this time has expired are considered invalid and are dismissed. Claims notices are usually sent in written form both by regular and certified mail. So email correspondence may be acceptable if your contract allows it, but it is always good to follow that up with a formal notice of a claim. The first party to review a claim is usually the construction manager or architect. They act as a neutral third party and try to help the owner and contractor come to an agreement. So if there isn't a construction manager or architect on the project or they aren't able to obtain resolution, the claim moves on to the next level of dispute resolution. So the next part of the claims clause will state how disputes are to be settled that cannot be worked out by the parties. So there are three main options: arbitration, mediation, and litigation. Dispute resolution. The dispute resolution clause will determine how conflicts are settled if the parties cannot come to an agreement and the architect is not able to settle the dispute. So arbitration, mediation, and litigation are the three main types of dispute resolution used in construction contracts. Arbitration is like a court hearing in that there is one or more decision makers who hear both sides of the claim and attempts to settle in the dispute through deciding in favor of one of the parties. It is slightly less formal than a courtroom but is still a very judicial process. The arbitrator is selected by both parties, usually from a pool of available arbitrators with experience in construction. Mediation is generally not binding and less formal and is often a condition precedent to litigation if so stated in the contract. The parties meet with a neutral mediator who attempts to have the parties come to their own agreement. The mediator does not make a decision but tries to get the parties to meet somewhere in the middle. So in construction, often mediation is successful in resolving the claim without the expense of arbitration or litigation, particularly if all the parties are motivated to settle. Litigation is the most formal dispute resolution process and involves the party with a claim filing a lawsuit against the other. A formal hearing will be scheduled with a judge, and evidence and testimony will be given by both sides. The judge or jury will render a decision that is legally binding to both the parties. Due to the expense of litigation, mediation and arbitration have become more popular and are the preferred ways to settle construction disputes. However, many construction attorneys believe that arbitration is virtually the same cost as litigation and has other disadvantages. In our experience, about half of the attorneys we work with prefer one or the other, but always with mediation as a condition precedent to either action. So you can give your attendance now in the chat box. Thank you.
Most common available is the lectures when we talk about which is of construction management. And in this lecture, we address talk about issues related to dispute resolution in construction projects. And I must acknowledge once again the discussions that I had was a case study. Now we already know what a dispute is. A dispute implies a decision, right? Or a claim of one party and remediation. We decide that a claim and a claim does not constitute a dispute. So what we are going to talk about today is how the dispute can be resolved as far as the construction project is concerned. And what are some of the simple ground rules that operate in the minds of an arbitrator or a court when they are trying to address or resolve these disputes. And we also see some causes that lead to disputes in arbitration: incorrect ground data, faulting and ambiguous provisions in contracts, faulty administration of contracts, deviations in work, agreements, contractors being involves unreasonable attitude, level of compensation, or delayed payments, observations of examination, which is very closely related to quality control and acceptance or rejection of material or products in the construction project. Now, dispute avoidance is obviously dispute. Just if we have a situation, a dispute, we will organize an elaborate mechanism for dispute resolution. So it's like saying that avoiding the accident is the best form of safety. I'll come back to this discussion. Disputes, avoiding a dispute is the best way of handling it. Now, how do we bring about our mind when we talk about avoidance? This goes a long way as far as dispute avoidance is concerned. In cases where the dispute goes towards the contract, process. This is something that is very important. Contractor understands the concept much better with the contract, especially those who are related to both parties. If there are the class of disputes is small. Team building, providing for an equal party, and using finding alternate dispute resolution pattern, also called area. These are steps that can help a long way in avoiding or negative those through an alternative mechanism. Alternative mechanism, what is called mediation and conciliation. This is an important process when a party consists of one or two parties and a dispute. Mediators understand mediation is not the same process as arbitration. Arbitration has certain very legal overtones. Mediators we must recognize the fine line between mediation and conciliation, which are not legally binding, have a much lower standing as well as legal sanctity is concerned. Arbitration. Arbitration is a quasi-legal process, and only arbitrators have clearance rules of evidence, patients have over, so on. They can carry out the process of arbitration, which is one step short of mediation and conciliation are non-legal informal processes, which are more than dispute resolution. Mediators advise on in bringing about mutual resolution, and given the very nature of the process, do not have the power to parties. And we further on this mediation and conciliation, the parties, the stakeholders who are take participate in this process. So participation in the mediation process is purely voluntary. Neutral third parties, the parties towards the settlement, less agreement is, and of course then it becomes once as a result of mediation and conciliation, a document is signed which decides based on how which is in addition to the provisions of the contract. Then modified document is of course taken by no such thing as this. The whole process is not by private, confidential, and private without proceedings. What does it mean? Without prejudice proceedings, it means that even though mediation has one party decides to back out and see, that option is always open. That is not when it comes to an arbitration, legal proceeding. That is not what is see qualitative evidence. Now, aside what are the details of this mediation process as well? It involves agreeing to the patient, initial engagement with the partner, preliminary communication, then the communication which would involve the communicators with the parties, information gathering, basically a presentation of the process, and finally determining the recording of agreements. Most there has to be as far as the benefits of mediation is concerned, it's a more disputes. It's a more satisfactory as far as this is concerned. It reduces more disputes, builds confidence in each other, as well as relationships with the parties, and empowers them because they then be abilities to be able to discussed a little bit about mediation consultation. Let's talk about the process as far as this mediation is concerned. That is arbitration. Now, what are the issues that are involved when it comes to selecting an arbitrator? The person has to be identity and complete impartiality, believes in the private principle of national justice, technical person with domain knowledge. Obviously, you're good for arbitration because the person should understand legal procedure and be able to understand the either part of evidence. But having some understanding of the legal procedure in terms of evidence, in terms of sorry, income. Now, as far as the duties of arbitrators, one appointment, the arbitrator should check whether he is qualified or not, whether they can and for this particular dispute involving these particular customers. And that's something which the arbitrator has to verify himself on the side. Understanding the issues under dispute, I would understanding party asking for state parties. That's how understanding receiving disclosures to party or having should not receive it. The area this decision make sure that the evidence received by him is not in the action. Please remember that two parties in on an arbitration, they have to think exactly what is being done. They should receive that aside. The arbitrator seek evidence or cannot receive evidence in the absence of one. Should not examine evidence. Examine in the presence of the parties in dispute. Should not make private inquiries. That's what I said. Arbitrator some fact finding. So, no matter what the intention is, the intention is being for against, arbitrator sure that whatever the intention is only in the presence of the arbitrator cannot indicate a part. And carry out certain investigations. The arbitrator should carry out on his own. Not exceed. The arbitrator has to be very clear on the scope of reference is the arbitration of partners, not for short terms. That's something the arbitrator has to be very clear. Terms of reference, which have come to it for the dispute, they is issued on reference. So, place. Should adhere to the time schedule. Whatever arbitrator hearings is concerned, it's like legal procedure, and first thing is that then as on the proceeding happens, the claimant makes a note of mistake, and then this is open. It's a usual judicial process. Claimant makes its name, presents the witness, and to prosecute. If claimant, if a witness is cross-examined, is in the process. These are against like different issues. Then once the claimant has examined it, it is not the right to cross-examine. Now, on issues that have arisen on account of during the cross-examination, the claimant cannot witness once again, except for issues which are raised during the process. So these are the kind of things to keep in mind and immediately know this that has to go. And whether or not the re-examination, be asked in the because it may or may not be something cross-examination. So these are the kind of either background, conflicted with the line of it. There is the respondent's case. The respondent also says witnesses. And as was the case earlier, if a witness is cross-examined, they re-examine it in a cross-examination. The respondent requests the other case. So this process of the conduct of the hearings as far as arbitration is concerned. As far as making the awards is concerned, at the stage of making an award and subject to proceedings, where there is a time, the essential of the project should be the direction. Can be reasoned or unreasoned. So you have to specify completely the reasons for a particular award. Just make the award without clearly explaining why make the particular award that would become an unreasoned award. It cannot be plural. Right? Without signing it, so it has to be writing and signed. It must be certain. All the parties. So what we here is certain. It should clearly specify what exactly has to be done and directed on. We are referring to the terms of reference. All the terms have to be unambiguous, addressed and without exceeding either of the short must be consistent and should contain all directions for its performance. The arbitrator's award also state to also have directions as far as the arbitration proceeding are concerned. The authority of an arbitrator seeks as soon as the proceeding, no action of the party consent or otherwise would give the arbitrator an award on the scene. The award having been irrevocable as forever. It really ceases once an award has been made. As a small corollary to this, as far as the 1996 Act is concerned, that an arbitrator can send what is called a notice of award, and if any party finds some flaw or corrections, the arbitrator can review and modify the award and modify the award. But that is not the license. The arbitrator the award completely. Generally, the time is the award. So basically, what is it? After the award is made, even under except for very exceptions, it's not reviewed as far as far as arbitration is concerned, it is a formal post-execution process. Decisions can be used and are legally binding. So quick and cheap that's heard and resolved by persons having knowledge. Expert legal and technical advice can be given by the arbitrator. The site of work can be visited. Interim relief can be received support and time and place of hearing can be used for convenience. So there are lots of information here which are not available as far as the and that's the advantage of arbitration. And the award, of course, can be convinced that justice is agreed. So the arbitration process safety valve close a dispute outside the court, even though it has a certain amount of legal sanctity having been carried out. Aspects of the dispute. And so with this, we complete our discussion as dispute resolutions. And the rest of the discussion focused on some of the guiding principles where solving disputes, construction, contracts, with some of the interpretation of languages. As far as words and phrases are concerned, only the natural and ordinary meaning is taken, and it's not expected for the arbitrator to try to mean global characteristics, like or proof sign, and the special word is as far as it has a use. Local customs and usage will be respected. Reasonable and favorable meaning is signed in the contract. When it comes to written words, the written words take precedence. What's being said here is sometimes happens that the contract, and in the last moment, there is a typographical error. It's not possible to redo the whole exercise. Somebody writes the words on the contract, and then it's the written word. Now the contract must be read. Oh, that's very important. The contract has to be read as a whole. Fundamentally, a contract has to be construed as a whole together the intention, which is important that the courts of the arbitrators make arguments at the time that they enter into that contract. Interpretation will be to the stage process. The first stage determine which documents, and in the next stage, it must be effective as far as practical. Each of the contract provisions so as to bring them in harmony and reconcile inconsistent. The idea is that if there are different documents that are part of it, and there are inconsistencies, then therefore it needs to direct an action to reconcile the differences in order that original intention of the parties is respected and taken into account in all the proceedings. You would recall that when we were talking about the CPW guidelines, where we mentioned order which different documents are to be assigned. What is the hierarchy of the document? Then interpretation in their ways. And if you look at most people realize that is the document being worked. And finally, more generic, created by the classic. As far as what the word as far as deletions may be considered and alteration assigned to contract. Contract is therefore to be read as a written general, which is this contract in an agreement. So, general and specific provisions, special provisions between and antecedent facts of correspondence. So what are antecedent facts? Antecedent fact of correspondence for the conclusion of contract. Certain meaning as to what the parties did at the stage of negotiation. What's being said here? That the parties negotiate certain things. Signing of contract. Now those negotiations, these facts of correspondence, and of course, what is what the kind of correspondence happened. That was documents forming the part of the contract, not into by construing the contract, except in case of clear doubt. Look at the correspondence contract. The extent that the nation determine the intent of the parties. As far as clinical errors are concerned, in case of obvious clinical errors, the correct and that leaving is a as far as the implied terms are concerned. Contracts now about like terms, implied terms, which parties were present in the minds of parties at the time of the conclusion of the contract, that which the court of arbitration from the circumstances or the parties to the gap in the contract. Now, courts usually proceed with possible conclusion with implied terms or the comprehensive standard contract forms are used. It will not imply so basically